But right now, I want to go to my next guest who offers macro investment research on financial markets, and few do it better. Let's bring in Bianco Research President Jim Bianco. Jim, I'm sure you heard the conversation I just had with Ed. Wall Street really scrambling the last couple of days. Lots of folks heading back to the drawing board. Have you had to make any major adjustments to your own work?
Oh, sure. I more focus on the fixed income markets than anything else. And what has been surprising to me is in the face of this rally in the market, and it seems to be broadening out in the last couple of weeks. 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were talking about it being all AI tech-driven stocks, is we're seeing higher interest rates along the same lines. And we're seeing the market price in nearly an 80% chance that the Fed is going to raise rates at the July meeting. And at the same time, I'm hearing a lot of strategists saying, see, the Fed's on hold. They're done. They stopped at the last meeting and it's all over. And it's like, somebody should tell the bond market because they're doing the opposite of that. But that's not uncommon to see the bond market and the stock market, discount two completely different things. But for right now, what I've been really surprised about is if you look at the bond market, it's giving you a much different conclusion than the stock market.
Well, you say a much different conclusion or just maybe a different potential conclusion? The reason I say that is I know yields have gone back up. They're not up necessarily demonstrably. I don't feel like yields are up as much as equities are up.
That's true, but they are up a lot from their early May lows. And I think what the bond market is trying to tell us is that the episode of inflation that we're seeing, and I'll put a little bit of my thinking in here, is everybody is declaring inflation dead right at the low, because I think we're walking right into the low of the year of inflation. Now, we're not going back to 9%. But we might see it bottom in the low threes and start back towards 4 to 5% by the end of the year. And the bond market is thinking that the Fed will look at that and say that is completely unacceptable. And that's why you'll get at least 2 more rate hikes. And I use that word at least.
Right. And the good news for the Fed is that they put it out there already. What triggers this rebound in inflation?
A lot of it is what's called the base effect. That means look at what the numbers were a year ago. We were getting monstrous inflation numbers a year ago. In June of last year, the month alone was 1.2%, which is one of the largest months ever. We'll drop that off when we get the June of 23 number. Then look at what we drop off for July of 22. That was 0. That was a 0 number. Then a 0.1 and a 0.2. And it's easy for us to see the inflation rate beat the numbers from a year ago, and the year-over-year numbers start to drift higher and cause a lot of uncomfort over at the Fed.
On the equity side, it feels like the market looked at Jay Powell and said, we think you're bluffing. He said 2 more rate hikes, and they said, we're all in. It was like a classic poker showdown, right? You got Phil Ivey on one side and someone else, and we're all in. We think he got the dead man's hand. We don't believe you. What do you make of the fact that equity markets are calling the Fed's bluff?
They've done it before. They did it a lot last year. I mean, we went through all these different words: pause, pivot, skip, step down, cut, and it never seemed to happen over and over again. And as a matter of fact, later last year, remember August of last year, Jay Powell gave that famous 8-minute speech at Jackson Hole. There's going to be pain. There's going to be suffering. I'm going to kill the stock market. We might even see higher unemployment. We have to do what's necessary to bring inflation down. Well, none of that's happened, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Fed were to revive a version of that before the end of the year.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, Jim, so you're saying buckle up, boys and girls. This ain't over. Have a great weekend, my friend. Appreciate it.
Happy Father's Day.
You too. Thank you. All right, folks, coming up, how could different